I never thought a hospital bed would become the stage for my greatest heartbreak. For weeks, I lay still, wires in my arm, monitors tracking every beat and breath, hoping our baby would survive. My husband, Marcus, was always charming to the nurses, smiling, bringing me soup, kissing my forehead. But behind his brief visits and warm gestures was something colder. Something I couldn't feel until it slapped me. I thought I was carrying our child. I thought he was fighting beside me. But the truth? He was planning a future without me, in a story where I was just the vessel. They said I needed complete bed rest. High blood pressure, unstable placenta, risk of preterm labor. It was terrifying, but I didn't flinch. I had waited 3 years for this pregnancy. I was willing to fight for every heartbeat. Marcus promised he'd be there. He helped move my things into the hospital room. He even bought matching pajamas for us to feel like home. But as days blurred into nights, I noticed something. He wasn't always there. He'd leave at odd hours, claiming work emergencies or calls he couldn't take here. I tried not to panic until the nurse slipped up. Her name was Lisa, a new nurse. Sweet, young, too talkative. She came in holding my chart and casually asked if I wanted to change the emergency contact. Your sister Lisa? Or do you want to switch it back to your husband? I blinked. Lisa? I asked. She tilted her head.
Yeah.
She's marked as the secondary guardian for the baby. My heart dropped into my stomach. I hadn't listed anyone else. I hadn't even heard of a Lisa in Marcus's life. The nurse moved on unfazed. But I was frozen. Guardian? For my baby? Who the hell was Lisa? I waited until visiting hours. When Marcus walked in, carrying that smug smile and a bouquet of carnations, I stared at him differently. Who's Lisa? I asked flatly. He paused, blinked, then laughed.
What? Oh.
Lisa from legal. She's just handling some documents for the company. He kissed my forehead. Nothing important. I didn't press. I just nodded. But that night, after he left, I couldn't sleep. Something was rotting. I asked the night nurse to bring me my file. I had to lie. I said I wanted to double-check my insurance records. What I found made me nauseous. There it was, under emergency contact. Lisa K. Peterson. Listed as co-parent. I read it twice. Then a third time. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't legalese. It was a role. A title that should have been mine, because I was the one risking her life to bring this baby into the world. I pressed the call button, hands shaking. The nurse returned, confused. Is there a mistake? I asked, pointing. She looked at the screen, then at me.
Her face changed.
Oh no, you didn't know? Her voice softened. He filed those forms weeks ago. I assumed you approved it. My throat closed up. Approved it? I was barely able to use the bathroom on my own, let alone sign off on handing my baby to a stranger. I felt dizzy. I asked for water. I asked for air. I needed Marcus to explain, but at the same time I already knew. I was being erased. Replaced. He wasn't planning our family's future. He was building a different one entirely. The woman, Lisa, wasn't a lawyer. She was his plan B. Or maybe she'd always been plan A. And me? I was the stand-in. The standstill. The surrogate, unknowingly playing her part. The next morning, I didn't eat. I didn't smile when Marcus arrived. I just asked for his phone. He looked confused. Why? He asked. I stared at him. Because I want to see what you've been doing while I'm stuck here, Marcus. He chuckled nervously. Are you okay? You sound paranoid. I didn't blink. Give me your phone. His hesitation told me everything. Babe, he said, sitting beside me. You're under stress. You're not thinking straight. That's when I turned my head to the window. Then let's call Lisa. She can tell me what's on the file. His jaw clenched. He stormed out 10 minutes later. No goodbye, no kiss, no explanation. Just a slammed door and silence. I called the hospital administrator myself. I told them I never consented to change my emergency contact or legal guardianship details. I made them flag the account. I asked if there was a way to restrict access to the birth certificate. The nurse on the other end whispered, I'll make a note. You're not the first. That sent chills down my spine. Not the first? How many other women had Marcus done this to? Or was Lisa a part of a pattern? I stayed up all night. I wrote everything down. Every detail. Every date. Every conversation. My body was weak, but my mind was clear. If he wanted to cut me out of my own child's life, he'd have to go through every legal wall I could build. I messaged my sister, who was a paralegal, and asked for help drafting a temporary custody protection. I didn't even know if that was a thing. But I knew this. Whatever was coming, I wouldn't be a passive participant. I wasn't just fighting for my baby's life anymore. I was fighting for mine. Marcus didn't come the next day. Or the one after. But Lisa did. She showed up with a clipboard and a fake smile, pretending she was just there to check on things. I asked what her role was. She stuttered. Said she was helping Marcus with arrangements. Arrangements for what? I asked. The child, she said. My child. I sat up in bed and told her calmly, you will never see him. Ever. Her smile faded. You don't get to decide that, she said. I looked her dead in the eye. You're right. The court will. I pressed record on my phone. Captured her reaction. Her words. Her panic. Then I calmly asked her to leave before I called security. The nurse standing by the door had heard everything. She nodded in silent support. And in that sterile room, filled with machines and murmurs, I knew something for certain. Marcus had underestimated me. He thought I'd be too weak to notice. Too tired to care. But he forgot. Mothers don't break.
We sharpen.
I wasn't just carrying life. I was about to flip his. And he'd never see it coming. Hospitals make you feel powerless until you realize what power really is. Mine wasn't in my legs, which could barely carry me anymore. It wasn't in my voice, which trembled every time I spoke. My power was in the truth. And I was about to expose theirs. After Lisa's visit, something shifted. I stopped hoping Marcus would return with answers. I stopped waiting for apologies. Instead, I started pulling threads. Because the paperwork wasn't just a fluke. It was a setup. And the deeper I looked, the clearer it became. They hadn't just erased me. They had rewritten the entire story. It started with an anonymous file. One of the nurses, I still don't know who, slipped it under my dinner tray. A photocopy. Hospital correspondence. Legal forms with unfamiliar signatures. At the top, one word made my stomach drop. Surrogacy. They had registered me as a gestational carrier. I wasn't listed as the mother, just the host. And Lisa? She was marked as intended parent. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was official. On paper, I was a womb on loan. I had become a stranger to my own child, and I hadn't even left the bed. The file had dates, signatures, lawyer names, a surrogacy agreement, and worst of all, a forged consent form. It had my name on it, my handwriting but not mine. They'd copied my signature from an insurance form.
Sloppily.
But enough to fool the system. I blinked back tears. This wasn't a mistake. It was a scheme. One Marcus had been building for months. I remembered the wellness checks, the prenatal counselor he insisted I talk to, the push to sign things just for safety. All of it was preparation. He didn't just want a baby. He wanted one without me. The next step was legal. I called my sister again, voice cracking, and told her everything. She drove down the next day and didn't leave my side. She recorded statements from staff, took photos of the altered documents, and filed an emergency injunction. Her boss pulled strings to get me a video meeting with a family court judge. The moment I showed the documents and my medical records side by side, his face darkened. They won't get away with this, he said. And for the first time in weeks, I felt the ground under me start to steady. Marcus showed up that evening, finally, wearing his favorite cologne, holding store-bought flowers like peace offerings. Hey babe, heard you had a rough couple days, he said casually.
I didn't speak.
I just gestured to the chair. He sat, oblivious, until I slid the folder across the bed. What's this? He asked. You tell me, I said quietly. He opened it, saw the copies, the legal stamps, the The forged consent. And for the first time since this began, Marcus didn't have words. Just silence. A stammer. A faint, "It's not what it looks like."
But it was.
And we both knew it. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I let him stew in the silence. Then I asked, "Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" He stood, pacing, trying to spin it. "It was just a backup plan, just in case something happened to you. I didn't want to lose the baby if," he trailed off. "If I died." I finished for him. "You planned for my death more than you planned for my life, Marcus." He rubbed his face. "You're overreacting." I turned to my sister, who had been recording everything from the corner. "Good," I whispered. "Let the court decide." That night, Marcus didn't go home. I had him removed from the visitation list. I told hospital security he posed a legal threat. They didn't argue. Turns out, Lisa had tried to access my records 3 times. Illegally. I had the IT logs. The head nurse was furious. They locked my file. Posted a notice at the front desk. "Do not release patient information without written, verified consent." The walls were finally closing on them. And inside that tiny room, despite the beeping and bruises and IVs, I finally exhaled. I wasn't just a patient anymore. I was the storm. The legal team acted fast. Within 48 hours, a court order froze all paperwork relating to guardianship or surrogacy. Marcus was barred from claiming parental rights without full investigation. Lisa's name was scrubbed from every document. The hospital had to issue an apology and a full internal review. But the real justice? That came when I received a call from Lisa's employer, a corporate firm Marcus worked with. "We were unaware of her involvement in this matter," they said. "Effective immediately. She's been suspended." I didn't smile. Not outwardly. But deep inside, something tightened. A boundary. A reclaiming. My baby was still weeks away. But I had already birthed something. The truth. It hurt. It cracked open everything I thought was safe. But it also set the record straight. I wasn't invisible. I wasn't weak. And I wasn't going to be written out of my own story. When the doctor came in for rounds, I asked for updates, for clear plans. I was lucid. Focused. I asked questions. Took notes. The staff started treating me differently. Not as the fragile wife, but as the woman who fought back. Who turned a quiet betrayal into a very loud line in the sand. There were still nights I cried. Quietly. Into my pillow, when the monitors were the only witnesses. I wasn't grieving Marcus. I was grieving the version of me that loved him blindly. That trusted a man who looked at my swollen belly and saw property.
But those tears didn't weaken me. They carved me.
I was becoming someone new. Someone harder. Not bitter, just clear. Clear about what mattered. Clear about who my child's real protector was. And when I whispered to my belly, "I got you," I meant it with everything I had left. I called my lawyer the next morning. "Let's finish it," I said. I was done with temporary fixes. I wanted permanent action. Legal custody. Restraining orders. Property separation. Full investigation into fraud. I wasn't waiting for Marcus to show his next card. I was flipping the whole table. And as I lay back, hand on my belly, eyes steady on the ceiling, I made a vow. This baby would come into the world protected.
Loved. Whole.
And as for the man who tried to rewrite our story, he'd soon realize he wasn't even in the ending. I thought Marcus was the liar, the manipulator, the architect of this betrayal. But then I met her. Lisa didn't come to the hospital like a villain. She didn't scream or run. She walked in like she owned something, like she belonged. And when she spoke, it wasn't shock in her voice. It was entitlement. Calm, polished, prepared. That's when I realized this wasn't Marcus's twisted idea alone. Lisa believed the baby was hers completely, as if I'd been nothing but the vessel. And in that moment, I understood something terrifying. Their version of the truth had never included me. It was supposed to be a quiet morning. Just me, my sister, and a warm tea the nurse had smuggled in. But at 9:12 a.m., Lisa walked in. No knock. No hesitation. She had her hair done, wore heels that clicked against the linoleum, and held a manila folder in her manicured hands. "You don't have to pretend anymore," she said before I could speak. I blinked. "Pretend what?" Lisa gave a soft, pitying smile. "This was always part of the plan. Marcus said you'd fight it, but I came to explain, to give you peace."
Peace?
My blood turned to ice. She sat down beside me like we were old friends. "Open the folder." Inside were color-coded tabs, a schedule for the baby's transition, and a nursery photo. "We've already painted the room. White and sage green. Gender neutral, of course." My lips parted, but no words came. She continued. "We found a nanny. Part-time at first, then full-time once the baby's used to the new environment." I interrupted. "New environment? He's not going anywhere." Lisa's smile didn't fade. She just flipped to another tab.
He is.
"The judge will see the agreement. You signed it. The hospital confirmed." She said it like fact. I sat upright, ignoring the pain slicing through my side. That agreement was forged. I never agreed to any of this. Lisa didn't flinch. "Then why did you go along with the appointments? Why stay quiet?" Her voice wasn't mocking. It was clinical, like a lawyer closing an argument. "Because I was trying to survive, Lisa," I snapped. "Because every breath felt like a risk and your boyfriend disappeared every time I needed help." That broke her expression. Just for a second. Then she leaned back, calm again. "He's not my boyfriend," she said softly. "He's my fiancé." The room spun. "He what?" I whispered. My sister stood up immediately. "You need to leave.
Now."
But Lisa ignored her. "We've been engaged for 8 months. He was going to tell you after the birth." She glanced at my stomach. "You weren't supposed to find out like this." I couldn't feel my legs. Couldn't feel anything. "Marcus married me 7 years ago," I said, nearly breathless. "And I never signed any divorce papers." Lisa looked genuinely surprised. "That can't be right." My sister stepped between us. "It is. And if you don't leave right now, we'll make sure security walks you out in cuffs." Lisa didn't move. She closed her folder slowly. "I don't want this to be messy," she said. "But the baby, he's ours. Emotionally, financially, everything. You're just the biological part." My sister reached for the call button. I spoke first. "Tell me one thing, Lisa. Did you believe I agreed to this?"
She paused.
"It doesn't matter," she whispered, "because we have the documentation. And that's what the judge will see." That's when I realized it was more than lies. This woman had rewritten reality in her mind. And Marcus? He'd fed it to her, spoonful by spoonful, until it tasted real. Security escorted her out. But the damage was done. I sat there, hand trembling over my stomach, wondering how deeply this lie had rooted. If they were this confident, what else had Marcus set up? Had he started filing for custody? Had he changed insurance policies? I called my lawyer immediately. Within the hour, we filed an injunction to prevent any custody transfer, hospital release, or external claim to the baby. But emotionally, the panic stuck. Lisa wasn't backing down. Marcus wasn't disappearing. And I had a ticking clock inside me. Every contraction, every breath, it was a countdown now. The hospital tightened protocols. No visitors without written approval. My name was password protected. Even the cleaning staff had to show ID. I was locked down in the safest way possible. But safety didn't calm my nerves. Because I didn't just need protection. I needed proof. Proof that I was the mother. Proof that Marcus had lied. That Lisa knew. That everything they'd built was a house of cards. So I called a private investigator. Gave him names.
Dates.
Signatures. Emails. I wasn't just waiting anymore. I was documenting. Every second. Because if they wanted a legal war, they were about to get one. That night, the doctor came in with news. "Your blood pressure's rising. We may need to induce early." I nodded. I was scared. But I was ready. I needed my son in my arms. Needed to see him. Hold him. Hear his first cry, and claim it as mine. Not for court. Not for insurance.
For me.
Because somewhere between the lies and betrayal, I'd stopped being afraid of Marcus and Lisa. I was afraid of something else, that my child would grow up hearing their story instead of mine. And I wouldn't let that happen. I couldn't. At 3:17 a.m., I felt the first real contraction. A deep, raw pain that radiated through every part of me. Nurses rushed in. Lights flickered on. My sister held my hand. "You're safe," she whispered over and over. "You're safe. You're safe." And this time, I believed her. Because no matter what Lisa thought, no matter what Marcus planned, I was the one doing the work. I was the one bearing the weight. And no legal document could change that. This wasn't just biology. This was bond. Every scream, every tear, I was writing my own proof, in blood and breath. When the baby came, the room held its breath. And then his cry.
Loud. Sharp. Mine.
The nurse placed him on my chest, and everything else disappeared. No Marcus. No Lisa. No courtrooms or contracts. Just us. His tiny heartbeat against mine. I whispered his name into the hush, and he opened his eyes. Eyes that mirrored mine. "You're safe," I whispered. "I won't let them take you." And in that moment, I didn't feel like a patient, or a victim, or even a mother fighting a system. I felt like home, and no forged paper in the world could rewrite that. They told me the hardest part would be labor, the pain, the fear, the waiting. But no one warned me that the real pain could come after. That when I finally held my son, warm, fragile, mine, the first form they'd hand me wouldn't be a congratulations. It would be paperwork. Legal documents with his name already printed. Lines where my name should have been. And Lisa's instead. As if I'd carried someone else's child.
As if I didn't exist.
That wasn't a clerical error. It was premeditated. And it was time I stopped surviving and started dismantling everything they built. They wheeled me back from recovery with my son asleep against my chest. I was exhausted.
Shaky.
But alert. The nurse smiled kindly and said, "We'll bring the birth forms shortly." I nodded. That was expected. What I didn't expect was that 20 minutes later, a man in a navy suit, not hospital scrubs, walked in holding the documents. He introduced himself as a hospital liaison from legal services. I sat up straighter. He placed the file on my tray table.
"Just standard," he said.
But when I opened the folder, I froze. Mother, Lisa Hayes. Father, Marcus Dalton.
Me?
Absent. "Where did you get this?" I asked. My voice was so sharp, it startled my sister who was burping the baby nearby. The man looked confused. "These were submitted by Mr. Dalton a few days ago. He said the birth mother was a surrogate who wouldn't be on record." I blinked. "I'm his wife," I snapped. "And I just gave birth. Do I look like a surrogate?" The legal rep turned pale. I'll call the supervisor." But I was already pressing the emergency button. The nurse rushed in, and I handed her the form. "They tried to erase me," I whispered. The hospital scrambled. The form had been pre-signed and filed internally, which meant Marcus had someone helping him on the inside. They tried to downplay it, called it a miscommunication. But that wasn't a mistake. That was a setup. I demanded to see every document with my name or signature. They brought in hospital security, risk management, and a patient advocate. My lawyer called it identity manipulation. "This isn't just unethical," she said on speaker. "It's criminal." And while she prepared a cease and desist and emergency protective order, I stared at my son's face and whispered, "They're not taking you. I promise." Marcus had disappeared. No calls. No visits. But Lisa wasn't as quiet. She emailed me directly. "It's best if you let go. We're doing this through the courts. You're only delaying what's already decided." I stared at her message for 20 minutes. Then I sent one line back. "You'll need more than a fake form to take what was never yours." Then I blocked her. My lawyer submitted a court order to freeze all activity regarding custody, identity, or guardianship. And I requested a DNA test. Not because I needed proof, but because they would. The next 48 hours were tense. Nurses rotated in threes. My room had a posted guard. My sister barely slept. And my baby? He stayed close. Every test, every feeding, I made sure someone I trusted was watching. Because Marcus still had legal access, and if he showed up with the wrong paperwork, it could all spiral. Hospitals can't detain a father, but they can misfile, misplace,
Miss something.
I wasn't taking any chances. My body ached, my heart even more, but I stayed sharp, because paperwork might be their weapon. But awareness was mine. Then the call came from the investigator. We found the notary who processed the original birth certificate. I braced. It was forged, he continued. Her stamp was copied. Her logbook has no record of it. That was our crack. The document wasn't just fraudulent. It was illegal. We filed the evidence immediately. And with it came something powerful, leverage. My lawyer's voice was calm but confident. We now have grounds for criminal charges. That changed everything. The hospital pulled their liaison from my case. And Lisa? She went silent. But I wasn't done yet. Because silence doesn't mean surrender. 2 days later, Marcus finally showed up. Flowers in one hand. A fake smile in the other. You look tired, he said. I didn't reply. Just held my son closer. Let's not make this ugly, he continued. You knew the arrangement. We agreed. I looked him dead in the eyes.
No.
You decided. And you lied to everyone, including her.
His jaw tightened.
What's done is done. I turned to the side table where the investigator's folder Saturday, then I hope you're ready to be undone. I opened it slowly. His eyes dropped. For once, Marcus was speechless. I handed him the forged form. You submitted a document with a fake notary, a false name, and no consent. That's fraud. But here's the good news. You'll get to explain it all. To a judge.
His face twitched.
You wouldn't, I already have. I smiled. And, by the way, my lawyer's petitioned for full custody. On the grounds of emotional manipulation, fraud, and endangerment. That broke him. He looked at the baby, then back at me. He's my son, too. I stood tall, stitches aching. Then you should have protected his mother. Instead, you tried to erase her. He left that day with nothing. Not even a photo. And I didn't feel triumphant. I felt steady.
Clear.
The lies had unraveled, but the wounds were still raw. My baby deserved better. And I was going to give him that, whether or not Marcus ever came back. Whether or not Lisa stayed in her delusion. I wasn't just reclaiming my motherhood. I was redefining it. Not on paper, but in every bottle, every sleepless night, every moment of quiet connection. I didn't need their signatures or their schemes. I had something stronger. Presence. A week later, the new birth certificate arrived. My name. My son's. I framed it and hung it above the crib. Some victories don't come with fanfare. They come in silence, in the soft breath of a baby against your shoulder. In knowing you were almost erased, but chose to fight instead. I rocked him gently that night, his fingers curled around mine. And in the hush, I whispered, they tried to write me out, but I rewrote everything. I thought it ended when I held the birth certificate in my hands, when my name rightfully stood alone. But lies that deep don't die quietly. Days after bringing my son home, an anonymous email slid into my inbox. It had 1 line and 3 photos. Just so you know what they planned. The images showed a fully decorated nursery. Pale blue. Giraffe print. A name on the wall, my son's. And in the reflection of the mirror, standing proud, was Lisa. Pregnant, belly padded. Hand resting on her stomach, like she'd earned it. They were building a future. One I never agreed to. Paragraph 1. I dropped my phone. My sister picked it up and went pale. You need to see this, she whispered. I took it back, hands shaking. The second photo showed a stack of baby books labeled Parenting for New Dads. On the dresser sat a sonogram photo, my sonogram photo. The one I'd taken at 24 weeks, when his heartbeat had finally steadied. I had sent it to Marcus that night, thinking it was a private, precious moment. But he had printed it, framed it, and handed it to another woman. My mouth went dry. This wasn't just betrayal. It was performance. Paragraph 2. We traced the email back to an unlisted address. My lawyer said it was likely a whistleblower, someone on their side, but not aligned with their actions. They knew you deserved to see it, she said. That part didn't comfort me.
It haunted me.
How far had they gone? Did Lisa really believe she was going to raise my child? Was she mentally unwell, or had Marcus convinced her of a fantasy so elaborate she stepped fully into it? I wasn't sure which answer terrified me more. What I did know. This wasn't over. And pretending it was would only put my son in danger. Paragraph 3. We filed a formal report with the family court, evidence of premeditated parental identity fraud. The court scheduled an emergency hearing. My lawyer looked at me carefully. We're about to put your private life on full display. Are you ready? I didn't answer right away. Instead, I looked at my son sleeping in his bassinet. Peaceful. Whole. I remembered the beeping machines, the whispered prayers, the nights I wasn't sure I'd make it. Then I nodded. If they built a nursery for a baby that wasn't theirs, I said, then they're already living in delusion. Let's bring them back to reality. Paragraph 4. In court, Marcus looked smaller than usual. His hair was unkempt, his eyes tired, but he still wore the same expensive watch, the same fake calm. Lisa didn't come. Her lawyer claimed emotional instability and requested to delay her testimony. The judge refused. If she believed she was going to parent a child that isn't hers, she said, we need to assess intent immediately. I testified for 2 hours. My hospital records, the faked forms, the forged birth certificate, the padded pregnancy photos. When it was Marcus's turn to speak, he tried to charm, tried to blame confusion. The judge didn't blink. Paragraph 5. What was your plan? She asked him coldly. He hesitated. We were going to co-parent with a surrogate arrangement. Was your wife aware she was the surrogate? He paused again, then shrugged. She agreed once. The courtroom murmured. My lawyer stood immediately. Objection. Fabrication. The judge leaned forward. You listed your wife as a surrogate, filed false documents, and set up a nursery with another woman. That's not confusion. That's coercion.
She turned to me.
Is it your intention to seek sole custody with protective parameters? I nodded. Absolutely. Then we'll proceed accordingly. Her gavel hit the desk like thunder. Paragraph 6. Outside the courtroom, Marcus caught up to me. You didn't have to destroy me, he muttered. I looked at him, the man I once trusted, and said nothing. He continued, Lisa, she's in a facility now. She had a breakdown. I raised an eyebrow. Then maybe she'll finally get help. She didn't mean harm, he insisted. She thought she was doing this for us. I laughed once, dry and bitter. There's no us in stealing a child. There's just you, and whatever lie you told her to make it feel okay. He opened his mouth to protest, but I was already walking away. Paragraph 7. That night, I held my son tighter than ever. Every sound from the window made me glance over. Paranoia is a quiet visitor. It creeps in through the cracks. I set new locks, installed cameras, registered a legal hold on my son's passport. Because I knew Marcus. He wouldn't try through court anymore. He'd try through charm, through guilt, through manipulation. But I had stopped being that woman. The one who doubted herself. The one who made excuses for him. That version of me died somewhere between the delivery room and the forged certificate. This new version? She didn't flinch. Paragraph 8. A few weeks later, another letter came. This time from Lisa's family. It was handwritten. Apologetic. We had no idea what was happening, her sister wrote. We only found out when she was hospitalized. She truly believed the baby was hers. Marcus never corrected her. He even coached her for the birth. I read the letter twice, then burned it. Sympathy didn't matter now. Lisa was a product of Marcus's lies, but I had lived the consequences. Every ache, every contraction, every cut of betrayal, it happened inside my body. No padded bump could imitate that. Paragraph 9. My son's first laugh came on a Wednesday. Unexpected.
Pure.
I was changing his diaper when he let out a soft, gurgling giggle that grew into something brighter. I froze, then laughed with him. That sound, that moment, it washed away more pain than therapy ever could. He didn't know how close he'd come to being taken. He didn't know the battle fought just to have that moment. And he never would. Because I'd make sure he grew up with truth. With love. With me. Always me. Not the one they tried to write out. The one who rewrote everything. Paragraph 10, final chapter closing. Some women lose themselves in motherhood. I found myself in it. I found grit, fire, instincts sharper than fear. They thought I'd be too weak to notice. Too tired to fight. Too grateful to question. But I saw it all. And I answered in full. Not with vengeance, but with vigilance. My son will never know the world they tried to build for him. Only the one I secured with sleepless nights and unwavering hands. He doesn't need to know their names. He only needs to know mine. I was the one who fought. I was the one who stayed.